for listening.
Hello, and welcome to the Haunted Heart Podcast.
With your hosts,
Kenny
and Katie.
Yes, we are here bringing you another spooky episode this week. And we're excited.
The last spooky episode of 2020, actually.
Yes.
If you weren't aware.
Mm-hmm.
So
the very last. They're very excited.
Yes, and we're closing it out. We're closing it out with a bang. We're closing it out with some fun.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to have a good time today. It's a Katie episode.
Is it a good time?
We're going to have a good time today.
Is it a good time?
Look, we got to be on these good vibes heading into 2021. So we're going to be on the good vibe train. Miss me with that bullshit. Hit me with them good vibes. Okay.
Absolutely.
That's the slogan of 2021.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So this week I thought that we would have a little bit of fun.
Okay.
If we're ready. Are we ready?
I just hate when you say that because it's like, I never know if this is like actual fun or if it's like awful fun.
It's like one of those MLM marketing or multi-level marketing like calls where they're like, this business is so fun. It's all about fun and friends and fresh and financial freedom.
Financial freedom, be your own boss.
Hashtag CEO, hashtag girl boss. Can you imagine? We should do an episode on MLMs. That would be a fun time.
Noted. We'll put that.
It is a kind of horror.
I'm going to tell you, it is very much a horror story. 2021.
I just don't know if I could get
books.
through all the Hun talk involved in that. I don't know. If you guys are interested in that, let us know. hauntedheartpodcast@gmail.com. Put it in front of it, though. The hauntedheartpodcast@gmail.com.
Please email the right.
Don't go ahead and don't
right
email hauntedheartpodcast@gmail.com because we don't know her. We don't know her. We're not responsible for her.
No. Mm-mm.
But anyway, are you ready to get into this week's topic?
I'm ready. I am strapped in this chair, this wonderful velvety chair. I'm sitting crisscross applesauce.
The pink lights are on.
Pink lights are on.
We're both a little sweaty.
Shades are drawn. We're ready.
It's a lot. This is what we do every week.
I've got my coffee, my Irish cream, cold brew. I'm good to go. I won't be drinking it, though.
Okay. Well, let's get into it.
Let's do it.
The night holds terror, too horrible to be seen. From out of the shadows, something's coming. Do you think you're really safe, all alone in your nice, warm house? Well, look outside. It's at your door, and it's coming to take you away on a journey into terror.
Call now, $1.50 for the first minute, 35 cents each additional minute.
Okay, so this week, I'm asking that we all cast our minds back in time to the days of cable. Because as an adult, I can't afford that shit. Specifically, I'm asking you to think of watching late night TV as a kid, the glamour and mystery of staying up late long after everyone else has gone to bed, watching reruns of decades-old TV shows or true crime programming, in my case, in an all-out protest against bedtime. Inevitably, every time I stayed up late to binge watch crap TV after about midnight, I was practically assaulted by those weird phone sex line commercials. It would begin with weird silky curtains blowing in the breeze, and sure enough, I'd hear the dulcet tones fading in. Well, hello there. So that's not what we're talking about today. But we are talking about a very different kind of 1-900 number. Today, we're going to explore a couple of the most popular horror hotlines of the 1980s. And trust me, it's going to be a good time.
I didn't know those existed.
Yes.
I did not know that was a thing. Horror hotlines?
Yes. So I don't know what it says about me as a person, but while I was very aware of the phone sex lines, I had actually never really heard of horror hotlines before I started my research on this episode.
Yeah.
I think there were a couple of them as I was researching that I had heard, like, they were sort of like a lore to me. Like, I had heard people talking about them, but I didn't have any, like, direct, I guess, connection with them. So it was really kind of fun for me.
Yeah, so I remember, growing up and you fall asleep and then you wake up in the middle of the night. But see, I never saw that on TV.
I saw them all the time.
Phone sex ones.
Yes.
I just woke up to like the sounds of Inuyasha, like playing on Adult Swim.
Yeah. Well, that was a little bit later. I'm talking about like way early.
Yeah, that's true. Or the what else used to come on? Those old like soundtracks, like sounds of like the Caribbean.
Oh yeah.
Or whatever,
Yes.
would come on, or like Celine Dion or something like that.
Yeah.
Always those
The
where you can buy the
anthology
album.
albums.
Mhm.
Yes. They should do one for 2020. Sounds of 2020. And it's just
And it's
like
just
faint
screaming.
screaming in the distance.
It's just screaming, sirens, and just terror.
Yes. Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
But no, apparently horror hotlines were a big deal in a specific time in our past. So horror hotlines tended to be 900 numbers, meaning that they charged by the minute, much like the phone sex hotlines, which have moved online, by the way. You're still around. They're just online.
Just online?
Yeah, I'm thinking about moonlighting for a phone sex line. Can you imagine? Can you imagine if you were a listener and you just called into a phone sex line and all of a sudden it was like, well, hello?
Well,
Well,
you know
hello,
what?
darkling.
The brilliant idea would be to do that, but it would just direct them to a live feed of the show.
Yeah. That might be the marketing plan 2021. It's what we're doing. Look out for it. So apparently the first 900 number went into operation in 1977 when then President Jimmy Carter took phone calls live for 2 hours during an Ask President Carter radio event. But horror hotlines didn't become popular until the late 1980s when it became profitable for the average person to run a 900 number. In 1987, AT&T launched a national program that allowed the people who supplied the audio content callers heard when they dialed into 900 numbers to make money to the tune of up to $2 for the first minute and smaller yet still substantial sums for each additional minute. Once people realized how lucrative such an operation could really be, there was a mad dash to set up 900 numbers. However, increased regulation in the mid-90s led to a tapering off of 900 numbers, especially the ones aimed at kids. Seems like one too many Timmys across the country dialed up the old horror hotline on the cord phone after mom and dad had gone to sleep, resulting in one hell of a scare when the phone bill arrived in the mail later that month.
Oh, I could imagine. I'd be Timmy, we need to have a talk.
Can you imagine the ass beating that you would have gotten, that either of us would have gotten as a child?
1,000%.
Yes.
I was always a good child. I never did anything to warrant said ass beating, but I could only imagine.
Yeah.
The one thing, if you're running up that phone bill,
That's money. That's money, honey.
That's like when you mess with the temperature with the dad in the house,
yeah,
right?
true.
Don't mess with the temperature gauge.
Yes.
Don't be calling no horror hotlines.
Don't be doing that.
Although I don't know, as a parent, I'd be mad because
But like a
money,
little proud.
But like just a little proud,
Mhm.
a little proud. Yeah.
So for that reason, in 1993, the Federal Trade Commission made it illegal to advertise 900 numbers to children under the age of 12 unless they belonged to bona fide educational services. What a snooze fest, honestly.
Bona fide educational services.
I wonder if we would qualify, because technically we like to try to operate within the space of edutainment, right? We're
Yeah.
entertaining you, but we're also educating you.
Yeah, that's true. That's very true. We could have our 1-900 number.
And sometimes we really push that line of the education line.
I mean, listen, I believe that we go places where few are brave enough to go.
It's true.
And
true.
I just feel like the general public needs to know about things like
About
coffin births,
breatharians trying to get energy through their assholes.
getting sunlight through your bumhole. I mean, that's important knowledge, right? Because otherwise, how would I know about that? How would I know that exists. How would I know? I would just go out here and just live my life not knowing that
Not
people
knowing
do that.
that somewhere somebody is sunning their asshole.
And I don't want to live my life not knowing that.
I want to know every time. I want to get a call every time somebody does that. I'm still waiting for the letters from the Breatharians, by the way.
Oh, God.
I'm looking at you, YouTube.
Well, you saw in the Facebook group where I posted a thing. It was you remember that old song? It was Still My Sunshine.
Oh, yeah.
From the 90s.
Yeah.
And I made a Breatharian comment that was like the intro video to like Breatharianism 101. And then Facebook was like, nah, bro.
Facebook took it off.
They're like, can't do that.
They were like, nope. Apparently, Lynn is like really on their copyright, apparently. Who knows? Glad we didn't use that song in the episode. So anyway, back to horror hotlines. Within that, so the FTC cracks down on things in 1993, but within the 6-year period from 1987, when it became profitable to have a 900 number, and 1983, when the crackdown happened, the golden era of horror hotlines was born. If you wanted to hear a spooky story told to you by your favorite horror movie villain, a horror hotline can make that happen. If you wanted to hear bad jokes starring monsters, they had that for you too. A few of them were even interactive, prompting the listener to press buttons throughout the story in a sort of choose your own adventure format.
Bitch, I love that.
I know. Like, as I was researching this, I was like, how expensive would it be for us to have a number that's just like free for people to call and like plug the show, but like do a choose your own adventure? Like, how amazing would that be?
But just recordings of us.
Yes. And then I was like, that sounds like a lot of work.
Or maybe not. Who knows? Who knows what 2021 will hold?
You just dial in and it's whole episodes that you just listen
It's
to
just
over the
us
phone.
sound checking, actually. That's what it is.
Oh, God. Now that's a real horror story. So I figured that this week we would take a listen to some of these horror hotlines for some good old-fashioned nostalgia. First up is 1-900-909-DARE. Let's have a listen.
976 Evil. See the terror in your local movie theater. Now hear the horror on your telephone. Dial this number for your horoscope. Eerie stories of horror and fright. Supernatural thrillers of evil in the night. The future was never so terrifying. Dial now. We dare you. $2 the first minute, 45 cents each additional minute. Children, get your parents' permission before you dial.
So in 1989, there was a horror film called 976 Evil, directed, funny enough, by Robert Englund, Freddy Krueger himself.
Yep.
So that film arrived in movie theaters in Britain. I actually think it was 1988, or it might have even been 87, but it didn't get here to the US until 1989. And it took the idea of the 1980s horror hotline and asked, what if calling said hotline opened up an avenue for Satan to possess you? A fair question.
I mean, honestly, like, what if? You never know.
What if? So the movie was understandably probably not well received by critics at the time. The Washington Post said it could have just as well have been called Dial M for monotony.
Well, I want to know who was the queer who wrote that. I want to know because listen, fam, I need you to. That's great, actually. That's brilliant.
I mean,
as
it's
much
really
as I
good.
don't like,
I want to watch it.
I mean, as much as I want, but like Dial M for monotony, like, okay,
It's good.
I get it.
It was the library is now open.
That was a read. I'm into it.
100%.
If I had created something and that was the review that I had gotten, I would 1,000% just be like, all right.
Okay, I accept
Fair.
it. I accept
Fair
it.
point.
Yeah.
And then I'd put it on a t-shirt and sell it.
Like we do with our YouTube comments.
Yes.
So even though the movie didn't have a great reception, it did spawn an actual horror hotline, 1-900-909-DARE, which, much like the hotline in the film, imparted to you a horoscope every time you called.
I love that because we're mixing, so like astrology
Yeah.
with horror. And I love that they were smart enough to be like, hey, make sure you get your parents' permission first, right?
Oh, all the ads
Before
say
you get on
that,
there.
but like, it didn't happen.
But let me tell you what.
Happen.
So this was what, in the 80s?
Late 80s, early 90s.
Late
yeah.
80s, early 90s? $2 a minute?
It was pretty high.
That's it. That's a little steep.
Yeah.
That's a little steep. $2 a minute and then 45 cents for each additional minute.
Mm-hmm. How long
you
is the
can
story
rack it
going to
up.
take?
Exactly.
Who knows?
Because they were banking on, if you have a story, like they are banking on an X amount of dollars that it's going to take to get you through that. So each phone call is probably equitable to a certain dollar amount, right? Which is crazy.
Exactly.
But I'm going to tell you what, I love it.
Yeah. I mean, it's a good model. I mean, we should do this with the podcast.
But Dare, that's weird to me because I'm imagining school, like the Dare Lion. So I'm imagining this as like an anti-drug hotline.
What was the slogan? Like Dare to resist drugs and alcohol? Was that it?
Dare to resist, drugs and I don't know.
It didn't stick, apparently. It did not stick.
It definitely didn't stick.
Oh, well.
Dare. All I remember is that it was a lion.
That's true. It was. They had the little stuffed ones that you could win. I never won one, though.
That's what I'm reminded of when they say Dare. So that's an interesting choice of the Dare hotline. But
apparently, because it was based off the movie 976 Evil. Apparently, like 976 Evil was taken, I guess.
Oh.
I don't know. Or maybe I'm not sure.
Who has it?
Who knows? Me. All right. So you ready to listen to another one?
Fuck yeah. Throw it at me.
I love them.
The phone zombies are very, very dead. But they're not in their graves. And they're not walking the night. They're in the phone lines and they've got your number!
Want theirs? Dial 1-900-490-DEAD.
Randomly selected callers get to talk to me live in the flesh. When you reach me, you'll wish you never called.
Only $2 a call.
Okay, so this one we have a flat rate going on, $2 a call. So just a flat one-time $2 a call. Great model. Love that. But this kind of just sounds like I would be calling and talking to like my crazy uncle.
Somebody with like roid rage.
Yes, 1,000%. Like this sounds like I'm talking to, like they gave some homeless man on the street or on the subway a job, which is great. Love that.
For that. Yeah.
Love that.
Absolutely.
But it sounds like they just picked up someone off the side of the street and was like, I need you to be just crazy.
Just scream into this
and
phone.
just scream into this mic and pretend to be a zombie or podcaster. What was he trying to be?
It sounds like you're talking to someone who's driving through the state of Maryland.
Oh, God. Yeah.
That's what it sounds like to me.
Pretty much.
So what we just heard was an advertisement for 1-900-490-DEAD, also known as the zombie hotline. The gimmick with this one is that you wouldn't always be listening to a simple recording. At random, callers would sometimes be connected with a live zombie, which is kind of ironic because they're undead.
Mm-hmm.
Or at least somebody playing one. This one seems like a 10 out of 10 to me. I mean, if you just listen to the ad, quote, the phone zombies are very, very dead, but they're not in their graves and they're not walking the night. They're in the phone lines and they've got your number. I mean, I would 100% call. We're maxing out that Visa, honey.
So the question is this just any like call center ever?
I would work there.
You know what I mean? No, but like having worked in a call center for a total of less than 30 days, you're kind of like a zombie anyway. So like, are all call centers just zombies?
Maybe.
Filled with zombies.
If that's what happens, lean into it. You know? If you work in a call center, I encourage you to, no, don't do that. Don't do that. Don't lose your job.
Please don't lose your job. Not in the middle of a pandemic. We don't need you to lose your job.
No, but consider it. Maybe.
Well, what is the point of talking to a zombie? Like, what is the purpose? What are they going to tell you? What life lessons are they going to give? What is the intent?
I don't know. Maybe
behind it.
Maybe the true lessons in life can only be learned from the undead. I'm seeing now in my mind like a crossover between the zombie hotline and like Miss Cleo. And they're like blending and like the psychic hotline and the zombie hotlines kind of like come together. And then it's like this zombie fortune teller who's like giving you the tea about your man cheating on you.
Okay.
That could be marketable. Let's put a pin in that one.
Put a pin in it.
Talk about that one later.
I just don't, I don't know. See, for me, I'd have to get like, I just don't, in rating this advertisement, I'm just not sensing I don't know what I'm getting. You know what I mean? As opposed to the other ones where we talked about horror astrology, right? And what was the other one? It was horror astrology.
Oh, it was just spooky stories. And I think this one is very much the same because they're all sort of very much in that same vein of like telling you a spooky story over the phone, which is sort of kind of like this podcast. It's sort of in a way a little bit of the early model of a podcast, except they're getting lots of money and we get no money.
I would just be concerned. So as the owner of this hotline, I would just be very concerned about who it is you're hiring and bringing on, like
to talk to children.
To talk to children. I mean, make sure that you have vetted this zombie thoroughly. Okay. I mean, are we talking? And also, like, there's so many other variables here. I mean, are we talking about, are these like Walking Dead zombies, or are these like, you know, Day
like
of
the 28 days later zombies?
28 days later zombies, or are they World War Z zombies? Like, do you? Who knows?
Who knows? There could be a huge variety. Maybe you press a button for your preference. Maybe.
I just want there to be a voice that when you call and it's just like, they're coming to get you, but it's your name instead of Barbara.
Mm-hmm.
But then it's like that weird automated version of a name. So it's like, they're coming to get you.
And they pronounce it wrong.
Me.
Yes. Get me. Yes. Very good. We'll have to work on that one. Okay. So this next one, I'm very excited to share with you. This one might technically, we've talked about how these things are sort of similar to podcasts on a different sort of scale. This might technically be a precursor to the Haunted Heart podcast. So I'm just preparing you now.
If this is us, like if you play this for me, and this is our voice playing back to us from the late 80s, early 90s, I'm going to be so stoked.
I mean, it's close. It kind of reminds me of you. So let's have a listen.
Oh, wonderful.
Hey, I'm no numbskull, so call me at 1-900-909-2233, and you'll hear the funniest monster jokes like, what's a vampire's favorite sport? Basketball. Or the one about the ghoul who missed her mummy. You'll also find out how to get these scary street signs featuring my friends Dracula, Wolfman, and Frankenstein. It costs $2.45 for a 2-minute message, so ask your mom or dad if it's okay before you call 1-900-909-2233. I'm dying to make you laugh.
I'm concerned for my safety and the safety and well-being of others. This is a little too manic for me, a little too crazy. And you know what, though? It kind of reminds me a little bit of going back when I was in middle school. I actually did part of the morning announcements. And so they got like a group of kids who would always do the morning announcements, and we'd always do different parts. And I went completely out of my personality and signed up for this at the time, right? Mm-hmm. And decided to do, I was like, it would be a great idea to do like a daily joke to read over the morning announcents every morning. So what I did,
we were building upon that whole comedy horror podcast like moment.
Yep. So they
were like, oh, I'm funny. Oh, I'm
no,
funny.
Girl. I went to the library and pulled out a joke book. I had it, and I was like writing down my notes. I was like, all right.
Research.
A little bit of Virgo came out. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Now looking back, it was a little precursor to early podcaster behavior.
That's exactly what we do now. We go to the library, we get a joke book, we pull it out. We pray to whoever's listening to help us be funny.
And so I had this little book, and I had my little notebook, and then I'd have on Mondays, this would be the joke, and I'd highlight it or whatever. And so I would do the joke at the very end, and then another student would do this weird like laugh. It was like at the very end.
I'm sorry. We should really get that as a sound bite.
It was so awful. I thought it was such a great idea, but I remember like walking back to class and then everyone just like looking at me and they're like, that wasn't funny.
It wasn't your tribe.
It
wasn't your tribe.
I wasn't there yet. You know what I mean? Wasn't there yet, but it's a great foundation.
It's a great foundation.
But I remember someone in class was like, those aren't funny. And it hurt me.
You were like, I am an artist.
And I think from that, you know what? I might have just had a revelation here. That might have been what has started my like closing in on myself.
Oh, God.
Going into high school now that I think about it. Jesus. I did not realize that I was coming to a therapy session today.
And that's the beauty of it. I've structured all of this for you. This is your intervention.
So,
Be crazy.
point being, I get it. Just a little manic for me.
Yeah, it's a lot. It's a lot of energy. There's a lot to process. There's a lot coming at you.
Also, potentially, again, another crazy person that we have hired.
Yes. Yes. I mean, I don't necessarily know. This is a very short period of time we're talking about here, like 5 or 6 years. So clearly the FTC saw a need to step in. You know, there's a lot going on in this 5 to 6 years. So if you fall into the age bracket that you were like right there during that time, I'm sorry for you.
Yeah.
Maybe there will be an ad on TV that will be like, if you were subjected to inappropriate treatment via a horror hotline of the late 80s, early 90s, call this number. Call 1-900-909-DARE for a settlement. Yeah, so unlike a lot of the other hotlines that we looked at, this one is actually sort of a franchise. A company called Teleline, operating out of Los Angeles in the 1980s, ran a number of somewhat generic spooky hotlines. Generic in that they didn't use a vanity phone number like 1-900-FEAR or 1-900-909-DARE or whatever. The commercial that we just heard was for 1-900-909-2233, which was a hotline owned by Teleline. The jokes these hotlines told were excruciatingly bad, but that's what makes them so good. What's a vampire's favorite sport? Casketball.
I don't know. Casket. I don't know.
It's the stuff of wonders. I go to bed
Who wrote
every
this?
night dreaming of jokes that good for this show.
They're bound to have gotten like some dad or like, I imagine like a room full of dads.
Yes, that was their writing team. It was
Uh-huh.
just a table of dads.
I just picture it. So you walk in and then there's like this very clinical setting type office space with a bunch of like brown tabletops, like the kind you have from the late 80s, early 90s, metal chairs. And there's like pads and pencils, like cups with pencils all over the place. And it's just a room full of dads. And then there's like a poster on the board that's like, be funny.
Think funny.
Horror.
Be funny.
Yes. Think funny, be funny, horror.
Oh, you mean the same sign that we have hanging in our studio?
Yes.
Yes. That sign.
That's what I imagine.
Yeah.
And honestly, I'm into it.
Yeah. I mean, it's good. It's good. Also, all of the commercials for Teleline's horror hotlines featured these terrifying puppets who would speak directly into the camera, but they were like the bad, like late 80s puppets. So like the eyes were like, it's clear that it was manual and it was like made out of like wood and there was like a string that you would pull. So the eyes move in a really uncomfortable way. And they're always really emphasized. And so they would talk directly at you into the camera. And the puppet in the clip you just heard was a skeleton. So
I'm not one for puppets.
yeah. Oh, it gets you? Uncanny Valley?
So kind of referencing our previous episode on like toys and stuff like that. I had one of those little ventriloquist puppet type things from catalog or something. I don't know what made me like, I was like, Mom, I want this. And I got it. It was really creepy.
And then
It was
you
really
regretted
weird.
it immediately.
And then regretted it immediately.
That's like every time I ask for a Goosebumps Choose Your Own Adventure novel.
I just, something about puppets. Even the, so what were those back in the, I guess it was late 80s. It was HR Puffin stuff. Is that what they were called?
I think.
Oh my gosh. They were so terrifying.
Huh.
I think that's what they were called. HR Puffin stuff. Yes. And they were these just like, no, that's not it. That's not it. That's some monster that I don't know what that is. But there were these really weird, just like puppet things. Even Sesame Street, I was not into.
Oh, I loved me some Sesame Street. Sesame Street was my jam.
Nope.
I was all about the Sesame Street. I was into it. So I have one more clip for you
Okay.
to bring it home for us. And this is our last horror hotline of the evening. I'm bringing you none other than 1-900-660-FRED.
Fred?
That's right, folks. 1, 2, Freddy's
Freddy.
coming for you.
You thought you killed me. Freddy Krueger will never die. I'm closer than you think. Just a phone call away. Dial this number and prepare to be scared. And I'm always around, everywhere. So dial this number now if you dare. Join the Freddy fan club. Freddy Krueger has a special message just for you.
$1.50 for the first minute, 35 cents each additional minute.
So I've saved this one for last because it's sort of iconic.
Oh, yes.
The research is pretty spotty for a few of these horror hotlines. Most of my research has been pulled from a single incredible source that's a familiar favorite here on the show, the Ghost in My Machine blog. Definitely go check it out. But the Freddy Krueger horror hotline has been the subject of tons of articles online. And it kind of makes sense that this would be the king of horror hotlines because think about the time period we're in. This is the 1980s, specifically the late 80s and early 90s. When Nightmare on Elm Street came out in 1984, it was an unexpected smash hit, and the rest of the late 80s were jam-packed with Freddy action in 4 sequels being released back-to-back between 1985 and 1989, and 2 more movies following in 1991 and 1994. It makes sense, then, that a hotline promising callers an opportunity to speak to the man himself would be a hit.
This is most definitely king for me. Like, this is pinnacle of hotline. And actually, this is one that I vaguely remember. But only just now, like, remembered that was a thing.
Yeah, same. As I was researching it, I was like, did I hear about this one or do I just feel like I did? Like,
well, because I've watched a few documentaries on the franchise, and I think I remember them referencing this particular commercial because there was a commercial for it.
There were a bunch, actually.
Yeah, so there was a commercial for it, and I think I remember them referencing it in the documentary about the whole franchise. And I just am so upset that I was not present, old enough. What time? So I was not.
I mean, it was
I was born in 89, girl. I wasn't alive.
Yeah.
But I hate that.
You certainly weren't making any calls.
I wasn't making any calls, no.
Maybe on your toy phone. Just 1-900.
But for today, I mean, honestly, we have to think about that scene in A Nightmare on Elm Street where the phone turned into a tongue. And I'm just saying, could Freddy also operate as a phone sex operator?
I mean, he's got the number, maybe for certain hours, maybe.
So,
she's got a lot of tricks. She can scare you. She can scare you.
and this one's a little bit cheaper than the last. It was $2 for the first.
It is, yeah. So $2 was the $2 was the max that was set by the legislation that was passed in 1987. You could charge the most that you could charge for the first minute, I think, was $2, and the most that you could charge for each recurring minute was 45 cents. So this one actually gives you a little bit of a discount, sort of, but I'm imagining that the stories are just longer, so they pick up the difference. Because it's $1.50 for the first minute and then 35 cents for each additional minute.
Oh, honey, I would have paid $3.
It's a bargain.
I'd have paid $3.
Yeah? Would you?
I would have.
Oh.
I mean, because you're talking to Robert himself. I mean, not himself, but you're listening to a recording of him.
Sort of. So a lot of folks saw an opportunity when it came to Freddy, and it looks like there were multiple supposed Freddy hotlines. So just to name a few, there was 1-900-660-FRED, for which you just heard the commercial. There was also 1-900-909-FRED and 1-900-860-4FRED, just to name a few. Interestingly, callers didn't always get the same thing every time they dialed in. According to some accounts, you'd hear Freddy tell you a spooky story, while according to others, you'd participate in some sort of trivia challenge that was hosted by Freddy himself that promised you an opportunity to be featured in the next Nightmare on Elm Street movie. Although I'm not actually sure how legit that promise was.
I don't know.
Yeah. Apparently it was like a sweepstakes type thing. There was even rumored to be an iteration of the Freddy hotline that allowed you to talk to Freddy live, similar to the 1-900-490-DEAD gimmick.
Dead gimmick?
Yeah. Remember we talked about that one where you would, the zombie hotline, where you would dial in and every now and then a randomly selected caller would get to talk to somebody live.
Oh, yeah. How would that work? I mean, Robert's just in bed one night and he's got his phone, or, his phone rings and he's just got to pick it up and he's like, shit, I gotta be, is it like the red phone, like they have in the White House, if that's a thing, where it's like, oh, this is the Freddy phone, got to pick this up. Is it a bat signal, where the Batman has to come? I mean, is there a Freddy signal?
I think it might be a dream job for us. I've come to you this week with a story that's disguised as like a business opportunity. Like, I think we need to figure out some way to like pivot the show into a horror hotline, buy a 900 number and like do it up.
I wonder if you could do it temporarily and then like do it for the Halloween season.
Right.
You know what I mean? And then just buy it for like a block.
If
that's I don't know if you can do that, but if you could just buy a block for like the October season and then just call the Haunted Heart podcast, would you do it?
We ain't gonna pick up the phone, girl. You know us.
Well, it would be recordings of us. You may catch us live. You won't.
Maybe that's a job for Digitally Spliced Katie. Maybe we can put that bitch
don't bring
on
her back up. She's in the closet.
Oh, she's just resting.
She's in the closet. So a couple of things. There are a few opportunities that I see here with other franchises. Because if you think about it, like, what would be another excellent horror hotline to do? Scream.
Scream would be really good.
Would have been excellent.
Scream would have, but I think the thing is that Scream came too late because you couldn't market it to kids under 12 at that point. And then, like, realistically, who's going to be calling in? Even though I fucking would, as a full-grown adult, I would be calling a Scream hotline if it existed.
With people like us, with the millennials,
you got to bring it back for us.
I definitely think that they would do that.
We don't have anything to live for.
I mean,
like, we could bring the horror hotlines back. It's fine. We don't need the kids. In fact, stay out of here, children. But we could market that shit to adults, and it would be,
you know what?
It would be on point.
You could do Scream. You could do Saw.
Yeah.
Like, you get on there and then Jigsaw's like, I want to play a game.
Yep.
Amazing. But also, like, going back to us, if we were to do that, or just in general, like having a hotline where someone recommends a horror film for you, like you talk to some spooky bitch, and you're like, hey, I have Shudder, or I have, Netflix, which, we got Netflix and Kill Honey.
Mm-hmm.
This is what I'm into. What do you recommend? And then just have a spooky bitch talk to you about like what they recommend.
But I think that's also like just like what the internet is for.
That's what Netflix does. Netflix is like, since you watched, fucking Pan's Labyrinth, here is
The Exorcist.
The Exorcist. And it's like, what? Huh? I don't get it.
Sorry, what?
What?
I think it's the perfect gig for me because it's like Elvira, but over the phone. And that is optimal.
So that was kind of going on at the same time too. So, because you had like your horror features, you had Elvira and all of that going on at the same time. I'm surprised that bitch didn't have a hotline.
I'm sure she did. I didn't come across it in my research, but I'm sure she did.
I would, yeah. I would hope.
It's the perfect crossover.
I mean, honestly.
If I was ever going to run a phone sex hotline, it would be in the style of Elvira. Like, to be honest with you. You like call the number and just hear my coffin creak open.
Hello. Except not like that. Except much more sultry than that.
Maybe exactly like that.
I'm excited. I think that would be fun. And this was pretty cool. I definitely did not expect to talk about this today. On this day.
What weird. On this day.
Did not
on this
that.
Wednesday. Yeah, so if you are interested there, we only covered a couple on the show today because honestly, I could sit here and play these clips all day and it would probably get really monotonous and boring for you guys, but I love them all. There are actually, because the Freddy hotlines were so much at the forefront of the horror hotline culture, a lot of those stories are available to listen to in full online on YouTube, meaning that like I found one video that was like 45 minutes long, and it's a couple of the Freddy stories that they would tell you that people would pay for. So I guess somebody like paid for it and recorded it, or they released it after the fact, after the horror hotline shut down. But definitely go check those out. It makes for a really fun bit of nostalgic entertainment to like light some candles. And, you know, nobody's going out much right now with everything that's going on. And it can kind of make for a fun night in, like listening to that, like by candlelight. Either that or quarantine's just finally driven me all the way insane.
Though that would be fun. None of these are still active, I'm assuming.
None of them are still active, unfortunately.
Damn.
But like I said, I think we should bring it back. I think we should like bring it in. There was actually a Michael Myers one. There was absolutely.
Wait, how does that work?
Yeah, right. You just hear.
You know what though? I'm into it. I'm so into it. I'm into it.
Yeah.
I'm into it.
No, there was an ad for a Michael Myers one, but I didn't want to play it on the show because I'm pretty sure that we would get sued because it plays all of the original John Carpenter music and everything. And I'm like, I don't think this is the one. But if you Google Michael Myers or Michael Myers Halloween Horror Hotline, you can probably find it. It's on YouTube and it's really, really good. It's a lot of fun.
Interesting. I'm going to have to look up some of these.
The damn copyright. Yeah, they're really fun. It's a really cool YouTube hole to fall down. And it's not like full of icky negativity, which is great.
Like the other YouTube holes we fall down.
Yes. Yes. Very much so. Much like our own channel on YouTube. So anyway, guys, that's about it for this episode on Horror Hotlines of the 1980s. I hope you enjoyed this walk down memory lane. And if you want more Haunted Heart in your lives, you can check us out on Instagram at The Haunted Heart Podcast. We're also on Facebook. If you search The Haunted Heart Podcast, go ahead and like our page. Give us a little 5-star review if you would, please. You can also write a recommendation, I think, on Facebook. And if you are not in our private Facebook group, please join. We have a lot of fun there. There's a lot of people who are far cooler than Kenny or myself in the group. Our Murder Mod Squad people are too, to name. But if you do, it is private, so nobody can see what you're posting, what we're talking about. That's for your privacy. So if you request to join, either Kenny, myself, or a member of the Murder Mod Squad will approve you, and you can get on down with us in the Facebook group. Talk about episodes.
Yeah, most definitely.
We're also on Twitter at The Haunted Heart. And if you want to support the show, if you like what we're doing and you think we deserve it, head over to www.patreon.com/thehauntedheart and consider donating to support what we're doing and keep us churning out the old content.
Yeah, for as little as $1 and then 35 cents a minute after that.
I know, right? What a structure. What a scheme. Right? That would be incredible. We could do like a horror hotline call every month for Patreon.
I'm telling you, I'm going to research this. I'm researching this.
It's a thing. I want to know how much it would cost for us to have our own 1-900 number. But if you do choose to support the show, what you will get from us, definitely, most assuredly, among extra added bonuses that we throw in as we go along, you will get 1 Spooky Smut reading per month. You will get 1 Netflix and Kill episode per month. And those are only on Patreon. It's exclusive for our Patreon members who do help us support the show. We really appreciate it. Couldn't do it without you. And thank you so much.
Yes, we love it. We appreciate you. Every last one of you. From the Cannibal Cult members to the Haunted Heart Harems to the Stay Spookies. All of you. We love you.
We appreciate y'all. Hugs and kisses.
Hugs and kisses.
And with that, I think we're pretty much closing out 2020.
Yep. Closing out 2020. It's been a bitch.
It has. It's been a bitch. Real one.
It's been a bitch. And you know what? Glad to see her go. Bye. Get out.
The door hit you on the way out.
Get on out. Smudge you out, girl. Smoke cleanse 2020 out of this space.
Well, here's the deal. Nobody's under the illusion of, thinking that everything that's wrong in the world right now today is going to make an about face just because we flip over the page on our calendars. But the year really is what you make it. So as we're closing out the year, take some time to yourself to focus on what your intentions for the new year are and what you want to do with that time. However, regardless of whatever else is going on in the world, or maybe because of what's going on in the world, what sort of change do you want to implement in yourself? What sort of change do you want to foster in other people? And how are you going to seize the chaos magic within you and make 2021 work for you, right?
Mhm.
So it's all in what you bring to it. You guys know that I believe that, big believer in chaos magic. So just sort of take some time, center yourself, focus your intentions, and see what you can manifest in the new year, regardless of whatever else is going on.
Absolutely.
And with that, we will see you in 2021, Darklings.
Yes.
Until next year, stay spooky.